Game started.
Devious from Canada. Okay. Sicilian. Okay, D4 here is the normal open Sicilian. There's also C3 or knight C3. I guess he's considering which line to choose, or this line. Not considered as good, but still. See this a lot. There was a Dan Heisman video on ICC just this week about common opening inaccuracies, and he listed this bishop c4 move as one of them. But I don't see anything especially bad about it. The point he makes is that white can't really stop black from playing d5 rather, and gaining a tempo on this bishop. So the key move is to just put up this pawn on e6 to take away some of the scope of that bishop, and then build up to d5. You can play it at some later point and gain a tempo on the bishop. Now he's castled already, and d5 exchange allows him to put a rook on this e file, pinning the knight. So you have to be careful a bit, maybe. But there's always bishop to e6 there. Okay, so he turns it into an open Sicilian anyway. And this does open up a line for the queen to look onto the d5 square, so maybe it makes it harder for me to play d5. So I'm going to defer that for now and put my bishop on g7 here. When the knight goes to e7, it usually means I'm going to put the bishop on g7 since I've blocked its path this way. You have to worry sometimes about sacrifices on the e6 square. Knight takes, pawn takes, bishop takes, but right now it's defended by the bishop, so none of that should be working. And after bishop g7, here I'm threatening to win that knight. Okay, so he defends it in advance. Then I'm going to castle, and then I'm going to consider d5 or e5 as a way to proceed. But d5, if I can get away with it, is probably the stronger move. Okay, the c3 move is an attempt to restrict this bishop that I have on g7. Probably a good idea. There's a slight weakness in the pawn structure here, but I don't see any immediate way to take advantage of it. I guess there's ideas of knight a5 hitting the bishop, but this b3 square is well defended here, so I don't see the point in that. Okay, so now if I play d5, pawn takes, and the bishop has to retreat, and this bishop has got two defenders and just one attacker, and there's two knights along this aisle here, so it won't come under attack right away. Now, it will be an isolated d-pawn, but if he takes, that also opens up a line for this bishop. So he didn't take. Now, if I take, develops his knight, Interesting. So I think I will just leave the tension there for a while. And I'm wondering what my next move is. There's knight. Knight e5 is an idea, but he could play f4. And then knight e5, f4, knight d3. Hitting the b pawn, but not much else. And it's a little bit shaky on that square. The bishop, I don't want to play the bishop here in front of my queen. I want to keep an open line on the d file. So maybe this idea. So a6, b5, and then maneuver the knight to the square c4, either from e5 or from a5. And I have to be careful that the knight doesn't become undefended at some point because it is under attack. And what is White's plan? I think White's plan is to push ahead with the pawn move. Oh, f3. I was thinking f4, maybe with the idea even of f5 and trying to blow open my king side here. So let's proceed with this plan. You know what he could do? He could take the knight, I take the knight, and then he could take the pawn, I take the pawn. And well, be defended once and attacked once. Then maybe move this knight out of the way so the queen attacks the pawn. Something to consider. So I'm going to move this knight so it's not a target anymore. Play knight to a5, or maybe e5 is better. On a5 he could play a move like b6, which I guess he can b3. He can play that anyway, can't he? b3 is a bit of an annoying move, but maybe it's okay. If he puts the pawn on b3, it does weaken the c pawn, so maybe just provoking that is okay. But if he does play that, then the knight will be somewhat out of play if it's on a5, and if it's on e5, well, maybe it has a square d7 to go back to. Okay, let's see. Yeah, he's taking quite a bit of time on this move. Maybe he's having trouble finding a plan, or maybe he's distracted by something. What is, yeah, I thought White's plan was a more aggressive push of the f-pawn there. If he's not doing that, what's he doing? Well, he could just develop normally with rook to c8, c1, rook c1. Other ideas. Queen development. Queen c2, queen e2. Bishop development. Yeah, well, move the knight. Here's a plan. Move the knight to b3, move the queen to d2, and then play bishop to h6 and trade off this dark squared bishop. It's always a good idea. Well, not always. It's sometimes a good idea in these structures. Okay, so queen there. So my idea was to play knight e5. And if he kicks it, or even if he doesn't, go from e5 to c4. And yeah, I don't see any reason not to do that. Maybe I want to move my bishop to b7 and my rook to c8 too. So I could have considered those moves sooner. But this can sit here on e5 for a while and not go to c4 until it gets kicked. So yeah, bishop b7 I'm thinking is next. And what's he got? Has he got any clever sacrifices or exchanges? This is not a loose piece. It's defended by the bishop. My rook in the corner is loose, actually. But is there any immediate way to attack it? I don't see it. Knight here, the square is guarded, hitting my queen. Bishop here, and bishop just can't get there to attack my rook. This knight, I think, you know, he's got kind of a congestion. I don't see that he's got good squares for his all his pieces. Maybe it's a bit of a problem for him here. So bishop. So I'm going to not solve his problem by putting the knight on c4 and letting him trade it, but slowly torture him with the moves bishop b7. Okay, I was going to play that immediately. Let's think about this. Is this an attempt to trap the knight? The knight still has refuge here on d7. Yeah, sometimes this move will trap the knight because then the f4 push and he's taken away this square g4. So, but in this case, I have another square for the knight. Two other squares, this one and that one. Otherwise, this move it weakened a dark square here, but I don't see any immediate way to take advantage of it. The knight is not getting to the f5 square because it's controlled here. Now, am I threatening to take? No, not really. Pawn takes, pawn takes. Here's an idea. Pawn takes, and if he takes back with the knight, then I have the square f5 to put my knight into, and then I can go to the square g3. Might be interesting. And if he takes back with the pawn, then he has an isolated pawn. Oh, okay, so this move h3 here was preliminary to playing f4. And now my knight can't go forward to this square g4, but I wanted to put it on c4 anyway. That was kind of my idea. And now when he takes, I assume he's going to take. I would take back with the b pawn. And the idea is use the open b file and attack this pawn weakness here. Now, is there another plan here? Can I take back with the d pawn and try and attack this as a weakness? I'm not seeing it. Now he can take, but I can take back with the pawn or the bishop or the knight. Anyway, so rook c8 no longer makes sense, but rook b8 does perhaps, and also knight f5, hitting that knight and that bishop. Is his knight coming in? Not right away. And do I have other moves? Well, it's rook here, queen here maybe. That pawn is defended there. Knight f4. This bishop is locked in. So at some point I may want to play f6 and try and liberate that bishop, open things up. Yeah, unfortunately my opponent has just moved too slow. I mean, we're only on move 17 and he's used up all of his time. I like to, on a game like this, you know, half the time in the first 30 moves, something like that, try and ration, you know, come up with a system and try and ration the time, not to get in such terrible trouble on the clock. Okay, so now I can't just play my queen there immediately because he's got a discovered attack from that bishop. So let's play knight to f5, and I come back with the pawn if he takes it. Which pawn do I want to come back with? It looks a little dangerous to open up the king. He can bring a rook here to here, but his bishop is sort of locked out. But I guess I would feel a little safer here. It's hard to tell. He has this idea of pushing the e-pawn here. Okay, so he speeded up at least. That's good. Hate to win a game just on time. Knight there. Where does my queen want to go and my bishop? That's defended. how about if I just lift the queen here, bring the rook out of the way so I can bring my bishop around. Okay, so is this going to be a double attack when he pushes there? Not exactly. Not exactly a double attack. Okay, let's put some pressure on the b pawn. Oh, he defends from the side. Nice, nice tactic. Nice defense. Now, to break out of here, I might want to play f6. But if he pushes ahead with e6, that's a bit awkward for me. So I'm going to play rook e8, e6. Aha, okay, so now he's pushing ahead with the pawns. This is a logical strategy, I think. And now this extra pawn on the king side is some help to me. Let's take. I don't want to get completely cramped in. There's bishop to c8, attacking that pawn. And he is opening up things here, isn't he? So let's see. That's well defended. That's well defended. Pawn takes. Pawn takes. And I can't take back. I want to take back. Let's see. What can I do? What can I do? Maybe, the rook can't go to the square b6 because the bishop's controlling it. There's 3 guys on the e pawn, and I only have 2 attackers. Wow, it's pretty well covered. Okay, so let's... Now if I do that, though... Okay, let's just move the queen back to the 3rd rank. See how he proceeds here. Okay, that I was not so afraid of. I was a little worried about him just pushing ahead, but maybe this is okay. Now I take with the queen, he can trade queens, and then this is loose. Which file would I rather open up? Or I can take with the pawn.
Time warning.
And if he pushes ahead, okay, he's attacking here, here, and here. And he left this pawn loose, so let's go with that. So that I can play bishop to, it's not about the pawn, it's about bishop to f5, hitting the queen and taking control of this diagonal. Yeah, there. Now,
Server
is this pinned?
announcement.
Can he sack the exchange there? That's a good question. Yes, he sacks it unhesitatingly, but he's short on time, so he should not hesitate. That's a correct decision. And now he has queen and knight coordinated on this square. So let's defend that. Okay. Well, he's moving very, very fluidly. Good. So let's see, can I get my rook into play here? Knight's coming here or here, rook here.
Check.
Bishop here. So then maybe bishop to h6, pinning the knight. Like this. And after an exchange here, I have rook. Okay, he's attacking the he's attacking my rook, but I can take his I can take his knight, and that defends my rook and also attacks his queen. So I think his queen has to move. And then I can move my rook. So I should be winning. Unless I've overlooked a mate somewhere. Now, does this win? There's a check here, right?
White resigns.
Okay, I think that was winning. Anyway, interesting game. Obviously, White was playing under a lot of time pressure at the end, but pretty close game for quite a while there. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. I'm going to upload a post-mortem shortly, and I'll see you later. Bye.